What are S-thread boosters? How do hyperspace lanes work? How are secret hyperspace lanes created? We'll be answering those questions and more on today's Star Wars video. Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another #AskEck video. Star Wars is slow right now, so I've turned the reins over to you guys. I'm answering your questions in a brand new video series sponsored by Vite Ramen. We'll get to that in a bit, but of course there's a link in the description. You can use code ECKHARTS for 10% off. However, if you've got a question you'd like to see me tackle in a future video, leave it down in the comments with the #AskEck. It can be about anything. Like I said, Star Wars is slow. I want to make content that y'all want to watch. So today's question comes from Cheese Gang, who says, could you elaborate on those S-ring boogers used to keep the hyperspace lanes open? Why was one needed for Endor if it was just in regular space? For one, I love the not boosters but boogers, but what he's referring to is the Sanctuary Pipeline. This was the hyperspace lane the Empire maintained so that the second Death Star could be constructed in secret. It was in fact held open by what were known as S-thread boosters. I'll get to what those are specifically, but I think now's a good time to cover how hyperspace lanes work generally. Not how travel works in hyperspace, we've covered that several times on the channel, but how hyperspace lanes come to be and what they actually are. Aside from some additions like the path drive, hyperspace lanes have basically been the same in Star Wars canon and Legends. The original Star Wars source book says, hyperspace is coterminous with real space. Each point in real space is associated with a unique point in hyperspace, and adjacent points in real space are adjacent in hyperspace. This is why astrogation and astrogation computers are so important and why they are standard aboard most hyperdrive equipped ships. Careful calculations must be made to assure that a hyperspace traveling ship doesn't smash into a planet or star. Only the desperate attempt hyperspace jumps without up-to-date astrogation charts and astrogation droids or computers. It goes on to say that most travel, even by experienced navigators, is done on well-traveled hyperspace lanes or routes. The vast majority of hyperspace lanes are simply natural paths in real space which correspondingly have safe paths through hyperspace. These are natural phenomena related to the structure of the galaxy. These hyperspace lanes are generally discovered by explorers who use blind micro jumps to, as the Essential Atlas says, stitch together a complete and useful route. The thing is, the galaxy's always in movement, so hyperspace lanes need to be monitored to ensure that they're still free of any danger. How this would work is you download updated maps into your Navi computers. The most stable hyperspace lanes probably wouldn't move very much, like the Prelemian trade route, pretty solid. However, as the Essential Atlas says, while constant tweaking lets well-traveled routes remain stable, the galaxy's ceaseless whirl can wipe away infrequently used ones within decades. Spacers hunting treasures know that star maps aren't like surface ones. Plugging an old star chart into your Navi computer is an excellent way to get killed. Beacons or navigational buoys are used to help keep information up to date across the galaxy. As technology advanced, the blazing of hyperspace routes moved away from living adventurers to instead probe droids and automated systems. The Empire actually reinvested very heavily into exploration, probably because Palpatine was always trying to find new places to store his things, but we'll come back to that in just a second. Today's video is sponsored by my good friends over at Vite Ramen. Guys, I've been talking about Vite Ramen on this channel for like 5 years. You know them, and if you try them, you probably love them. Vite Ramen is a small American business which makes extremely high quality, delicious, and tasty ramen. If you're looking for a way to stop eating fast food so much, for example, Vite Ramen is an excellent option. What's more, the food is absolutely delicious, and I know this because I actually partnered with Vite Ramen to make my own special flavor, Masamon Curry, and it's genuinely incredible. As I say, whenever I do a Vite Ramen ad, read the comments. I do not censor them at all. People love this stuff. Plus, you can feel good. The company treats their employees well, they pay a living wage, they're always great to me. So if you do want to try Vite Ramen, check out the link down in the description and use code ECKHARTS for 10% off and perhaps some extras. Thanks again to Vite Ramen. Love you guys. But let's continue. As I was saying, the Empire reinvested in exploration, but even in the Republic era, there were entire ministries dedicated to ensuring that space travel could happen safely. They helped correlate data from spacers across the entire galaxy so that the more frequently traveled traveled routes became more and more safe. But what if you want to travel from point A to point B and you're not familiar with any pre-existing hyperlanes? Well, you can make a blind jump, hope for the best, and make another blind jump again and again until you reach your destination. Chances are you'll probably die, but hey, it's an option, and if you have the Force, you can pull a Darth Bane and even use that to help your navigation. You can actually make adjustments to your course within hyperspace. It was just exceptionally dangerous. Again, if you're interested in that, read the Darth Bane trilogy. I think it's book 2 where he goes to Tython. Anyway, the Chiss Skywalkers of Star Wars canon are pretty similar. They use the Force to help avoid major obstacles. Pretty cool. However, there was another way to do that, and that's the S-thread boosters we mentioned earlier. I don't think any sources went into the exact mechanics of how S-thread boosters work, but essentially they force open a hole through hyperspace to allow safe travel. As mentioned, this was most famously the case with the Sanctuary pipeline. Given what we know, i.e. that threats in hyperspace are related to real-world objects, it's most likely that these S-thread boosters use some sort of repelling force to keep the paths along a hyperspace route clear, which probably means you need a lot of them, almost like buoys, spaced out so there's no unaffected areas, which is why the technique most likely was deemed generally to be very expensive. Like, we're talking light years and light years for many of these distances. The benefit is that you have a reliable hyperspace lane which you control, which you probably don't need to navigationally check, and in the case of the second Death Star, which was also secret. The question about S-thread boosters came in my discussion about BIS. The route to BIS used this technology, and it would have been pretty much crucial. The deep core, where BIS was located, was subject to lots of stellar movement, so a route that could be safe could change within several weeks. The S-thread boosters kept it open, which was important as BIS was Palpatine's personal sanctuary. A really cool aspect of Star Wars is just how important knowledge of hyperspace lanes really is. We saw that play out in the Yuuzhan Vong War during the Battle of Ebac 9. We saw the CIS use it during the Battle of Coruscant, but we also saw how secrets could be used with the entirety of the Clone Wars. The Rothana route was a secret hyperspace lane which terminated at Rothana. It was secret, so it was used in the pre-Clone Wars days to build the Republic's navy, and it continued to be used so during the Clone Wars. However, instead of S-thread boosters, the lane seemed relatively stable and instead was mined. If you didn't transmit the proper clearances, you'd be yanked out of hyperspace, which can't be a pleasant experience and could even be fatal. This was a tactic also used by the Yuuzhan Vong during their invasion. They used a biot, basically a natural piece of technology known as a Dovin Basal, which generated a miniature black hole. You could basically mine hyperspace routes with Dovin Basals and control the New Republic's flow of traffic. We saw the New Republic themselves employ something sort of similar with an interdictor when they were taking Coruscant. I've covered that in a prior video, but that's pretty much all I've got. Let me know what you thought of my explanation of how hyperspace lanes work, how S-thread boosters work, and if you've got any further questions, either on this topic or anything else, please let me know down below. Anyway, until next time, guys, I look forward to reading your hashtag AskEck comments, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.